Let's rank the CDL teams before the last week of online qualifiers for the Black Ops 6 season. I usually do power rankings, but I figured we're only like 1 week away from Major 4. Let's do the tier list, and they'll update this once again next week before the Major. But let's not waste any time, right? I know you guys got things to do. I got things to do. So let's kick it off, and we're going to go through the easy ones first. Winning potential, obviously FaZe, obviously Thieves, obviously Ultra. I did this before last Major, and I had the Vancouver Surge in borderline. In the last video I did where I did it tier list style, I said I didn't think they had what it takes to actually win. I didn't think they matched up well versus Thieves. I didn't think they matched up well versus FaZe. They were able to get a win versus FaZe on LAN at the last Major, so prove me wrong in that aspect. Still, they've been 4-0'd twice in both grand finals. They've been back-to-back and been a little bit more lackluster online, but I think I'm honestly still going to keep them in the borderline tier. Maybe in this coming weekend when they play Ultra online, I'll change my mind. But for now, I'm kind of going to keep them there. And then same thing with the Miami Heretics. I think both of these teams are like ones you could put in the winning potential tier. But it's kind of like how many teams really have the capability to win? I guess maybe it is just kind of like these five from what we've seen so far this season. But Miami struggles to beat Thieves on LAN. They struggle to beat Ultra on LAN. Surge struggles to beat Thieves, Ultra on LAN. Like these teams right here, I feel like struggle against these teams primarily. So that's kind of why I have this differentiator, but you can move them around. But now we get into some of the more interesting teams that aren't obviously at the top. We'll start out with the Carolina Royal Ravens, and this is a team that to me is just like kind of the epitome of mid. I will say they had a good win versus Boston Breach to kick off this stage a couple weekends ago, and Dylan Rex is starting to look a bit more comfortable and being a bit more effective on the map. But when you look at their recent matches, right, lost 3-0, lost 3-1, lost 3-1, lost 3-0, lost 3-0, lost 3-2, like, is a lot of losses in their more recent performances. And this is just a team that, like, looking at their overall record, negative in hardpoint, negative in control, obviously a good SND team, but still, I feel like they lose SNDs that maybe they shouldn't. Like, they got 3-0'd by Optic, right? I know they just brought on Mercules, but Ravens was supposed to be an SND team, and obviously they couldn't even win it versus Optic. So looking at their recent performances and kind of how mid they've been in Respawn this whole year, I got to put Ravens in the mid tier. Next up, though, we have the Boston Breach. And maybe this is going to be a slightly hot take, but I'm putting Boston in the mid tier as well. Last Major, I had Boston in the Dark Horse tier. And like I said, next week when I update this, maybe I'll put them higher into the Dark Horse tier. But to me, this Boston team just has not shown it enough on LAN for me to actually think of them as a real Dark Horse. Getting top 6 is, I mean, it's good, right? You're beating out half the teams, right? You're making it middle of the pack. You're doing better than pretty much 6 other teams in the league. They're just not able to compete with a team like Surge, who they run into constantly in Winners Round 2, or a team like Ultra, or a team like, I guess they did beat LAT in round 1 of Major 2, but like FaZe, like it just doesn't feel like they can really beat a lot of these teams. They were able to beat Miami and LAT a while ago, like I said, but this Boston team is just a coin flip. Like, it's like they lands on heads, they're decent, and lands on tails, they're ass. But Boston's just, to me, they're just kind of mid. They're just a hit or miss every day. Next up, we got Cloud9 New York. Definitely a tough team to rate, right? Because they made a 2-man roster change, which drastically changes the dynamic of your team. They did beat Atlanta FaZe, which is an insane win. So for that reason, I'm going to bump them into the Dark Horse tier. I mean, they previously were in the Booty Cheeks tier, if you remember back before Major 3, but I'm going to bump them up to Dark Horse. This team is 2-2 right now. 3-0'd Falcons, which is an expected dub. Lost 3-1 to Ultra, lost 3-1 to Miami, and then beat FaZe 3-1. So kind of a weird schedule. I mean, definitely a tough schedule to do this. And then they close it out next week versus LA Thieves for their last match. So definitely a rough schedule for them in this last major as they try to qualify for champs. But this team, this is their records just in those 4 matches. So with their current roster, their new roster, they are really good at hardpoint. They're decent at control. I mean, they're really just not good at vault control, it seems. And then their SND has been kind of bad. This team, to me, feels like they're probably going to be more in the mid-tier, but because they just beat FaZe, I have to give them that respect. And if they beat LAT this coming weekend, they're definitely a Dark Horse team. Next up, we got Minnesota Rocker. I'm putting them in the mid-tier as well. You could maybe even put them in the Booty Cheeks tier. They just, like, these guys lack ice. I know they were able to win a Game 5 this past weekend. They're just not very icy. I feel like they have inconsistencies across the board. I mean, if you just look at their matchups, right, their only wins coming against LAG, who's probably the worst team in the league. A win, half a month ago, about 15 days ago on the Royal Ravens, but losing the Ultra pretty convincingly, losing the Falcons into Game 5, C9, Ravens again, Miami, Optic. Like, this team just, they don't really move me. Statistically, it's just kind of hit or miss, right? I feel like Estriel has been kind of mid since Kenny joined. Geo has been inconsistent. We know Nero's always had those inconsistency issues where one map he's dropping 40 and the next map he's dropping 14. And then Kenny has been individually better for this rocker team, but they just have not put it together as a team. And I mean, looking at their records for this roster since they brought on Kenny, they're negative across the board. Obviously, the worst mode for them is SND, but they're like competent in respawn. So for that reason, I'm just going to keep them in mid. And real quick, I want to thank the sponsor of today's episode, 1v1me. If you want to watch and stake esports all day, watching some of the biggest streamers on the Twitch platform play their BO6 wagers in the league, definitely check it out. There's a link down below, and you can use code ATC at signup to not only support me, but also get in on the action. And always remember to gamble responsibly. Next up, we have Optic Texas. And at the time I'm recording this, in case you're not watching it right when I put it out, Optic has only played 2 matches with Mercules. They're 1-1. But Merc looks disgusting. I think this kid's going to be great. Hook, Shotzi, Dashy really just have to find their consistency, find their teamwork, their comms, and just overall, you know, make the right plays around this kid because he's making a lot of the right plays. For now, I'm going to slot them in the dark horse tier. This coming weekend, as they play another round of matches with Merc, maybe I change my mind, move them up, move them down. But based on what we've seen so far with Mercules, they're looking pretty solid. It's definitely tough to rank them because they lost to Boston Breach in a Game 5, who I have in the tier under them, as you just saw. And then they 3-0'd the Ravens, who I also have in the tier under them. Obviously, their 3-0 here versus Surge doesn't really hold as much weight anymore because that was with Skies, although the other 3 played well in that series that are still on the roster. So have to consider it. I'm putting them in the dark horse here, honestly, because I think with more practice, there's no reason they shouldn't at least get a little bit better with Mercules and this new squad of 4. And considering at least he already looks pretty good and comfortable, and overall, the team definitely has potential. We know what Shotzi and Dashy can do. I know Hook is, you know, dubbed as an onliner, things like that, but he's had his moments throughout this year and been pretty solid. I think for right now, Optic and Dark Horse makes a lot of sense. And then in this coming weekend, their last 2 matches versus LAG and Toronto Ultra, you know, probably win 1, lose 1 is the expectation for this team, but that Toronto match is going to tell us a lot. Speaking of LAG, I mean, they're going in the booty cheeks there. I don't even really have to pull up their stats. This team just really cannot get any wins on the board. They're 0-3 in this split so far. They went 0-5 last stage. They were like 1-6 the stage before. I know they've made roster changes all over the place, but this team, even though some of their maps look competitive, they just have no ice, no composure to close out these games. And I mean, I'm not really going to pick them over any single team above them in the tiers, hence why they're down here. And then last but not least, the Vegas Falcons. I'm also going to put them in the booty cheeks tier. I'm going to put them above LAG because I do think they're better, but they're another team that, realistically speaking, other than like maybe Rocker, I don't see them getting any of these wins on these teams. Falcons are 1-3 right now in this qualifiers with a 4-11 map count, which is not ideal. Again, like I said, they could beat Minnesota Rocker. They could beat Optic before the last major, but overall, I just don't trust this team to get a lot of wins. And then looking at their records for this roster, I mean, you could just see it here. It's just not good across the board in every single game mode. Hardpoint's supposed to be their best one, but they're still 6-10 on it. They're 0-4 on red cards. So maybe they should just start vetoing it. Maybe they were previously vetoing like protocol, I guess, or maybe now they're starting to veto rewind. But yeah, this Falcons team just doesn't move me. But those are the tiers heading into the last week of Major 4 qualifiers, but also just online qualifiers in general for the CDL. We're coming down to the end of the season. Online is just about over. We got Major 4 DreamHack, which I'm going to be there. So if you see me there, make sure you say what's up. Champs, and then obviously EWC within the next couple months. So let me know what you guys think about this. If there's one team you think I'm way off on, drop it in the comments. But as always, don't forget to drop a like. Sub to the channel. We're on the road to 10K. We're getting so close to 10K. I'd love to hit it at least before the end of the season. If not, maybe before Major 4. We'll see. But I appreciate the support as always, and I'll see you in the next video.